Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and I'm very pleased to have with us today Jason Raymer of iQmetrix. Jason, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, we should do more podcasts on retail. It's such an important industry. It's an industry that's in transition. And, the key to of our partner community and MSP community doing well in that community is helping these companies move along into where they need to be. So the question on the table is IoT poised to improve telecom retail customer experience? And we're going to be diving into that question in just a second. But Jason, tell us a little bit about iQmetrix.
Yeah, certainly. So iQmetrix is the number one provider of SaaS software for the telecom market in North America. We specialize in point of sale. And currently today, we serve about 15,000 retail locations with our software on a daily basis.
So you guys are in the retail business?
All retail business. And certainly we do other problem solving within telecom and within carriers. But we wake up thinking about the retailers every day.
So you're living with the retail people. What's their pain points?
I think there's a couple of key pieces that are happening right now with our retailers and just in general. The first notable is just driving foot traffic. It's a real problem when you think about handset purchasing starting to get life cycles beyond 3 years on average in some ways. And so really it's, a scenario of how do I continue to generate revenue whenever I have fewer customers walking in my door?
And let's talk about that, because I think you're hinting on what maybe the outlook looks like for retail in the retail sector.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the outlook, it's going to be, there's going to be some that thrive no matter what, right? And they're going to do that whether it's through acquisition and making sure they're strategic in the distributions they serve and or purchase. But I think the notable is we believe and know retail has to exist for the consumer experience, specifically in tech. And then, you drill down into the things like handsets, and it's a must-have. We don't go days without our phones. And so I want to purchase it and get it right now. But when you think about the outlook and solving those problems, I think we're looking at it as a way to say, how can you reduce friction so I'm more willing to go into the retail store and not feel like I'm having to get a loan for a bank or have a complex consumer purchase? And so reducing that friction is, I think, one of the key pieces for the outlook and a necessity.
And is this, you mentioned foot traffic, are these two challenges sort of connected?
I think that they're always going to be connected. We think about at iQmetrix, we think about the purchasing of a new device as a complex consumer sale. And so that means I can't just go in and exchange money and walk out for what it is. There's types of vetting that happens based on my customer, my profile, and what's available to me. And anytime you have that decision tree taking place, it makes the sale more complicated. But because of that, it also makes sometimes the ability to do it online or in other channels just as complicated. And so when you think about that, are they related? Absolutely. Does one solve the problem of the other? To some extent, but not in one single fell swoop.
So I think one of the things you've been talking about through this is there's still a need for the retail experience. Is that right? In other words, when you're looking at what's driving consumer behavior in our sector, part of the picture is I still need to go to a store?
Yeah, we certainly see that and know that that's still true. Even when you think about consumer packaged goods, that's not complicated. You have brands that are using retail as the premier showcase of their products. And that's true even with the likes of an Apple and what they did with their retail strategy. When we think about telecom retailers, not only is that true, but then when you think about just geography and the growth that we've seen in rural America over the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years, and the dedication carriers have given to that doesn't happen without retail. Because otherwise, if those customers were going to use digital channels, they would have already. and then they weren't. So when we think about the necessity of the retail footprint, it doesn't go away, but certainly it changes in the next 5 years.
All right, so let's bring in IoT. What does IoT have to do with foot traffic, the customer experience, and the future of retail?
Data is king, and so when you think about the impact of IoT in retail in general, and then specifically into telecom, it should be a means of being able to leverage the right information to drive those footsteps that are needed to create switchers that want to come to my store because of the carrier and or offer that I have. And so the impact that IoT can have on the micro data that can then be actioned, I think, is quite significant.
And so what is that data telling you about, which devices are popular or not popular? Are there clues there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things that play around that. Like you can see the sales of smartphones and understand who's got number one share and what that looks like. And we know that, in a worldwide market, the Galaxy devices and Android are, taking share in North America. We know that Apple is number one. So that data at macro is very evident for us. Where you start to think about the data of IoT and consumer behavior is more about the right offers that will drive that customer action. And so being able to pair the life cycle of when you purchased your last device, knowing that you're in the store and lifting and touching an Android phone, and maybe you've never had one before. That's the type of data that should be paired together that can be actioned inside of a store with the use of that information being presented to the rep to be able to action on it.
So in other words, you're arming the retailer with how that shelf should be stocked, and then the actual individual associate on how he might approach a customer?
Yeah, I don't know that we play in the game of how the shelf should be stocked, but we certainly want to inform the sales associate with the right information about the customer in front of them or the persona of that customer in front of them. And so when we think about the use of data, IoT, and even AI in retail, that's a clear use case to say, how do you cut down on the training time of a sales associate that's in a high turnover category in terms of retail and make them the most effective you possibly can? And so when we think about the predictions for IoT and the ability to use that data inside of the stores, it's making salespeople quite efficient with less training.
And I'm guessing also you're improving EX, right, in terms of NCX at the same time. If I'm a new associate, but I go out there and I talk to you, and it seems that I seem to understand you really well from the beginning, I'm guessing that's a better experience for me as an employee.
Certainly. We're our best whenever we're comfortable.
Right.
And so, we believe and we believe that in the way that we build our software to say, hey, the software has to be easy to navigate and use, because that builds an environment where I'm focusing on my customer and not on the clicks and shifts that I have to do. And the same thing goes with the information that's delivered to a sales rep to say, hey, if you can action on this, that means you're not having to think about the if-thens, but really focusing on you, the consumer, and how I can best serve you today while you're in the store.
So what are your big predictions going forward? Let's say the three biggest predictions for IoT applications in the telecom sector, in telecom retail.
Yeah, I think that naturally the first one is just as we described, and that is pairing the IoT, the data to the sales rep. You're going to have some level of large language models with AI for them to be able to action right then. And so then, the net of that or the result of it is you're just going to have higher close rates that are highly or more profitable baskets in the sale. And so that's the first piece around it. I think the second one is we're naturally seeing IoT devices in households just because of just the evolution of technology and purchasing behavior from consumers. So my thermostat goes out, I replace it. What do I replace it with? Well, I replace it with an IoT because that's actually just kind of what they sell nowadays. Like everything's digital and it works. Well, eventually that data is going to get paired and used in a strategic manner. and the sales distribution channels that's used is going to be most interesting. And so how does that work its way into telecom retail, and what does that look like to say, I use my phone like this at home, I'm connected to these 16 different IoT devices, and so really that's who I am, or my digital persona of what I am as a consumer to my carrier. That information, being able to use and act on that in service of the customer is going to be a very extraordinary future for us.
What's your message for retailers that are used to sort of doing it by the seat of their pants? Are there benefits to moving to integrated technologies?
I think it depends on your scale. We can't all afford to be early adopters. And so we need to set back, and you need to understand what your strategy is. And then, notably, subscriber acquisition, customer acquisition, what's going to get me there? And there's probably someone out there today in retail that's leveraging this that you can learn from, and you can use their playbook right out of the gate. And if you're smaller, that's what you have to do. If you have the scale, you can afford to fail a little bit. And so go make some bets on the use of some IoT and what that can look like, and try some A/B testing, and you're going to understand what works and what doesn't. But the need of this is what we're doing today to drive foot traffic in telecom retail is not working. And so we need to make changes. And the only way to make those changes is with data-driven insights and data that's driving our actions.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into what you guys offer in terms of iQmetrix interconnected commerce software.
Yeah, certainly. So at iQmetrix, with respect to interconnected commerce, it is our brand category that we have created and that we serve to telecom, and that's both with the retailers as well as in the carrier space. And what we do is we provide at our core a point of sale system that's going to basically deliver the end-to-end experience that's needed in order to manage a retailer's business. Now, the customers that we service today are at different scales. And so you may have some clients that are smaller, and their point of sale system is their end all be all. So it's almost like their own little data warehouse, along with cash management and serialized inventory and things to run my business. And then we have very large clients who we take and they use our software for point of sale and the needs of cash management inventory. But yet we need to take that information that's happening at the point of sale, and we need to connect it to other disparate systems within their operations. And that's really what we define or bring together in interconnected commerce. We can take all of the actions and data that's happening inside of retail, and we can send that information to the right source of truth inside of the organization, so it builds and informs the strategy and the tech stack that's needed in order to execute.
So, Jason, retail merchants, there's a certain bit of feel to being a merchant, right? And that's a good thing. I'm actually not being critical of that. I think you need to have a certain feel for the customer, a feel for trends and so on. And, the trend towards a data-driven retail market has been here for a long time, but I think merchants often still trust their instincts, and I'm not arguing against that, but I'm wondering whether there's a kind of resistance, like, can I even do this? Can I afford it? Will it work with my kind of associates? That kind of thing.
Yeah, certainly. I think in any market where there's transformation, you're gonna have laggards, and sometimes laggards are for a good reason, right? They're sitting back and watching and determining what they're going to do. And then sometimes it's like, I'm scared of transforming, and how much is it going to cost me to do so? And can I do that, right?
Right.
And we see both. When you think about kind of the latter of those two, the way that we approach it and the way that we would recommend, finding partners to do that is, do you have someone that's actually going to solution with you? Yes, we have a large product set. Many others do out there in the market. And yes, we can bring you those products right now. But the net of it is actually, like, there might be other solutions out there. And so let's understand your use case and uncover what needs to be true in order for you to be successful in terms of transformation. And really, that's the approach that we go after. And so for us, we find talking to retailers, whether they're small or large, that tend to be laggards in terms of transformation. That gives them a sense of belief to say, yes, we've done it and we've shown a capability out there. But more importantly, we're not just going to throw that at your face. We're going to talk about what your problem is and let's solve for it together in the right way. And I think that starts to make something feel like you can make the big leap and get up to par with what's happening in the marketplace.
And it's not a matter that you guys are a small company, but you're not a giant either. In other words, you guys actually answer the phone. In other words, people can call you and talk to you and work with you. And
yeah, that's a good point. And maybe you could say we even go through our own transformation efforts internally and have to make these same decisions.
Right.
We're a Vancouver-based organization that spans both in Canada and the U.S. With just under about 300 employees. So we have some of the same pains and problems, but notably, yes, you can get my email address and we're going to respond to you. And so it's a real person that's taking care of you.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for joining me today. This has been really interesting. Where can we learn more about iQmetrix?
Certainly iQmetrix.com. That's going to be able to kind of give everything in terms of the problems that we're solving in the space, even current clients that we do serve today. And then best way to get in contact with us also just going through there into our About Us, and you'll be able to reach out to us and we'll give you a call back.